Can you guys see that it's recording? Can you give me a thumbs up or say yes? Okay, I see yes from two people, three people, thumbs up from Mitchell. All right, so it's recording now. Welcome to the class, everybody who's going to be watching this online, and to all the people that are attending in person. I see like about 40 students attending in person, and in person I mean in Zoom. But let's get started. So there are three goals that we have today. That we want to accomplish is we're going to go to the theory of the material that you read in the book this week. I'm not sure exactly what you read in the book. Let me check on Canvas. I think it was chapter 4 and 5. We're going to cover the little bit of the basics of that. I think it's view models and debugging. So we'll cover a little bit of that in the class today. I'm going to finish writing code for project 1A. We already started in the last lecture. I already gave you guys some hints. And like I said earlier, before recording, more than 90% of the students have finished, and even the 10% that have not finished it, they can finish it today. Obviously, it's not going to be always the case that I finish everything, especially in project 2. It's going to be difficult for me to finish everything in class. I will give some hints, and we will do the techniques that we learned from the book in the class, right? So that's the goal, to get you guys started in the right path. So let me share my screen. Give me a thumbs up again one more time after you can see my Android Studio or actually, do you see my Android Studio now? Anyone see my Android? So I see, yes, Matthew and Chitties and Kyle. Okay, so great. So let's get started with so just real quick reminders. Next week you have a couple of things due. You have one quiz and project 1B that's due on February 10th. Of course, 1B, you have about 48 hours of extension. You do have the 192 hours time bank. And for quiz 1, like there is no extension for this. So please yeah, start early. I think you should be able to start after this lecture, and maybe after you do a little bit of project 1B, you can start early, right? You can start on Friday or Sunday or whenever you have the time. You can get started with your quiz, and you can see that the projects and all these things are very sparse, right, in this class. So I don't think it's we give you too many assignments in this class, right? So you have project 1B and quiz 1. Discussion 1 is just you just need to share your experience. What was your experience doing project 1, A, B, and C? And it's just a light, more like a qualitative analysis of how you guys did in the projects, and I just want to hear your experience, right? And then these are sparse, right? You have quiz 2, and then you have project 2A, you got to finish your B. So the projects and everything is quite sparse, right? I think there's one day that's like a little bit hectic. I think there's project 3, discussion 3, and quiz 4 at the same time, right? So that's in May 5th. So that's all the way towards the end of your semester. And I think you can do it, right? I don't believe the quizzes are going to be that hard. If you've done the projects and listened to the lectures and read the books, it's very straightforward questions, in my opinion. All right, so let's get started with Module 2 lectures. Can you see the slides? I know I'm being repetitive and asking you. I just want you, can you see the slides? I see someone's give a thumbs up. Okay, so let's get started. Let me do the slideshow. It's going to be Module 3, View Models and Debugging, Spring 2025. I hope you're doing good in your project so far, and you're encouraged, and you are making progress. You're getting used to the layout, design view, and the code view, and doing the main activity and those things, and you're making progress every week, right? So that's what we want at the end of this class, for you guys to gain confidence in developing Android app. Of course, this is not going to be the end of your journey learning Android. You're going to be learning much more in your own time, self-learning, but you will learn the major type of architectures and the techniques that you'll be using to build Android applications, right? Any kind of Android applications. So today we'll cover view model. We'll go into detail in live coding. We're not going to do I'm not going to go into too much detail in the lecture theory section. Safe state handle, actually, we're not going to use this, right? We're not going to use safe state handle. We're going to show you a better way of doing this in the future lecture when we use the database, and we'll use some flow model and state flow and different things, right? So we're gonna show you something different. This is not gonna be used in the projects. I will give you one example. You guys are gonna learn a little bit about this. Debugging in Android will show you a little bit of that, right? Again, it's gonna be difficult for me to break the code. Even in the book, they don't do a very good job, right? They just give you like a very shallow error and then they just go fix it by using this debugger. And I thought that was not very helpful. So debugging actually happens when you actually have actual issues in your while you're programming, right? It's not like a gimmick you just make your own. I mean, it's just it doesn't work that way. I don't believe it works that way, right? So, but I will show you the techniques how you can debug debug in Android. One thing I want to show you here real quick, there was some confusion. The book was not clear because it's an older version. It's a 2022. So if you want to like say like log something, log D, or like log warning or log error, you want to log something, log main activity on create bundle, then in the logcat, you need to put something like this tag. You're going to put a colon and then you got to say main activity. And then it's going to show only things related to main activity. Actually, I'm going to show you later how to clear this logcat because you see a bunch of stuff, right? You see like thousands of, if any of you have done the book, then the logcat will be quite overwhelming. We don't want that. We want to clear the logcat so that we can see only the things we want, right? This is how it should look like just for the main activity. Say you want to have more than two, like this main activity, you also have another log D one with quiz view model. You can put like or statement. You can put like or statement like this main activity or quiz view model. Like I put a spacing and then this should give you both the quiz view model like you see here and the main activity. We'll actually be doing this. We'll be working with logcat. I'm not sure in today's lecture, but in the future lecture, we'll be showing you guys a lot of logcat, right? And that's one thing you want to learn is while you're building your code, right? In Java, I used to do like, what was that system dot print dot ln or something like that. I don't know. I've not done Java in a while. I don't use Java very much these days, right? So you used to print those things, and then you used to see what what you got like for like a value, like a result or something like that, right? But here you can use this logcat, right? You can use this log. You can also do printing. Actually, you can simply do printing, but I do think this is a bit better practice, and we will show that in the future, right? So let's let's look at a view model, right? View model. The view model function is a property delegate provided by Android KTX. So please download the project template, right? So this is already put in the Gradle. It initializes the view model lazily, right? So what does that mean by that? So it just means that it's when you initialize a view model, you just say by view models, right? And this will not appear in memory unless it's used here. It's view model dot some function, then it's retained in memory as long as the associated is alive. So it only starts here, right? It's initialized here in a lazy way, right? So if you had watched any of the LinkedIn videos, then it will tell you more about this lazy initialization. Ensures the same instance of view model is returned for the activity or fragment. We're going to talk about the activity. The fragment is going to come in, I think it's going to be in project 2. Don't worry what this is right now, but it retains the same instance of the activity, right? But there are some nuances. We're going to talk about this. Quiz view model is only initialized when accessed, saving memory and ensuring lifecycle. So I shared this with you guys. This is only initialized once it's accessed, right? Otherwise, it's just going to be initialized in a lazy way that we talked about. The view model is retained in memory as long as associated lifecycle activity or fragment is alive. So for example, if the activity is it's not running anymore, then the view model is also destroyed, right? But if the activity is there, then the view model is alive, right? So this is also like I'll show you guys what happens when you rotate your screen. I'll show you guys one practical example before we do the live coding, right? So before rotation, main activity is pointing to quiz view model, and during rotation, this um, this the main activity just disappears, right? The main activity disappears, and then after the rotation, the main activity starts from the beginning, and then it points to the same quiz model, quiz view model. That's the main significance of this quiz view model, is to retain some variables, some functions that are important to retain even while you are rotating the screen. And you, again, this is all theory, right? I'm just talking about these different things, but I'll show you guys what we're talking about in the live coding section when after I finish project 1A and I show you guys the hint for project 1B. So you see in this picture that activity references the view model, but the view model never references. So view model doesn't call it, the arrow doesn't go this way. This doesn't call this, right? Because once if it just disappears and it's calling to something and there's nothing, then there's going to be memory leaks, right? So if you have taken the 2114 computer architecture class, so if you're pointing to something that's just nothing, it's a null or it's a null pointer. I mean, it can give you memory leaks, right? Because there's nothing. So to avoid memory leaks, it view model. This is a good practice that is also mentioned in the book. That view model is never supposed to point back to the activity, right? And after the rotation, again, the new main activity is gonna reference the quiz view model, right? So this is how it works. Even though I told you guys it retains the life cycle of it. And I want you to guys to do the exercise, right? To understand what I'm saying. There's some things that you do in the book. You do this is what you do in the book. You have a quiz view model, instance was created, and then you print something, and then you see this, right? I want you guys to see um, how all of this works and how is this related. So in the beginning, quiz view model is created, and then you start it, you create it, and then you start it, and you resume it, and then you pause it when you rotate your screen. It's going to be paused, right? And it's even going to be stopped, but the view model is not been destroyed. Sorry, actually in pause it's not going to be destroyed, but when you stop it and when you're about to destroy it, actually I think it's in destroyed, then the view model will also be destroyed. Sorry, it's not going to be it's not going to be destroyed at stop. It's going to be destroyed after it's destroyed, after the activity is destroyed, right? So on stop, when you rotate the screen, then the view model is still going to be there, right? So we're going to show you guys this in the code. This is a lot of theory right now. I'm talking a lot, so it might not make a lot of sense, but I'll show you guys what happens when you rotate the screen and everything, right? So view model best practices. If the app is in the background, its process might be killed by the OS in low memory situations to recover the UI state, right? So for example, the view model does work well with the rotation. But if it's the app is in the background and it has your phone has a low memory, then this process might be killed by the operating systems, right? So there's a thing called save state handle. So this can even protect your app not to lose the data, right? The things that are say you have stored a list of something, right? A list of users or something like that, and you don't want you don't want to lose that, right? Then you can do something like save state handle, right? So how you can initialize this is quiz view model private val state save state handle. You pass in the save state handle, and then you just say state, and then you will see there's a private val, right? As we are programming in this class, you will understand why you're using a difference between using the private val and not using the private val. I'll be actually showing you a lot of code, what happens when you use this private val and you don't use it. But basically, you save the state, you have the key, you're given the key, string and value, and then you set it, right? So we're not going to do much of this, but basically key is something, it's a string, and value is something you want to store, right? And then you can get this string again using the key value. Say for example, your key is Amun or something like that, right? When you pass that key, you can get that value again. So in this way, and then this is how you can call it private val, a lazy initialization. You can do something like that. View model dot save state, score is the key, and then you give the score as 100, and then you can get it back using this get state, right? So that's the key, and then you get the value 100 when you call this, right? That score is going to be 100. We are not going to be using this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. So debugging, right? So debugging, let's look into debugging a little bit. You can do something like log d, and then when you want to debug something, you just can put on the side of your editor, let me see, you have this main activity, you can put something like this, right? You want to debug it, you can click it here so that this is where you want to see what's happening with the code, right? Maybe you want to have something like here or something like that. But anyway, so that's you are setting a breakpoint, right? To debug your app, first click on the debug app button in the Android Studio. So if you want to debug your app from the beginning, you're going to do something like that. This is running the app. This is debugging. Attach debugger to the Android process. So for example, you want to check why a button isn't updating the screen. Add a breakpoint in the button's on-click listener code and click on the debug app options, right? This button. When you click the button on your app, the code will pause. So that's what's happening, right? So then you can inspect it. What about attaching a debugger? If your app is already running and you don't want to relaunch it, so you don't want to relaunch your app, you just want to attach that breakpoint, and then you wanna run while the app is already. So the example, right? You're testing a long-running background service and don't want to restart it. Attach the debugger to your app while it's running and set the breakpoint, right? In the service code to inspect its behavior, right? So that's what we're doing, and this is what it should be like when you start debugging. This is what it should look like, right? And then these are the different things, right? You have this stop, you have this resume, step over, step into, step out, evaluate expression. So let's go into each of these, right? Step over, what does it do? It executes the current line of code but skips over any method calls. The debugger treats the entire method as a single statement and doesn't go into its details, right? So use case, useful when you are not interested in the internal workings of a method, but just the result, right? So it just steps over this thing and then immediately gives you skips, and then it just prints the result, right? It just gives you the result here. So that's what the step over is doing here. Step into, right? Moves the debugger into the method or function being called on the current line, allowing you to inspect, right? So if you go into, so this will actually go into this calculate sum. Useful when you want to debug a specific method or a function and see how it works. Step out. If you are currently inside, so if you are like inside this calculate sum function, but you're like, okay, I'm done with this, I don't want, I think I've seen enough of this function, then it will get out of it, right? Usually when you've seen enough of method details and we want to return to the calling context, right? So this is what it does. Resume the program, continues the program execution after hitting a breakpoint or pausing. When this use this when you have finished inspecting a pause state and you want to a program to continue running, right? So you have finished inspecting and then you want to go back. So you pause at a breakpoint, inspect the values, and resume the program, right? Stop. Terminates the debugging session and stops the program execution. When this use this when you no longer need to debug the if the program is stuck. So you have resolved the issue and you want to stop debugging. Obviously, also you can inspect the variables, right? So I showed you guys here. You can do these kinds of inspection. You can actually look at the variables at that point, and you can see, like, for example, in a question bank, you can see it's a size of 6. There are 6 questions, and you can see the text res ID, which is the ID that's pointing to the string XML, and then you can see it's either true or false, right? So you can see 0 to 5, that's 6 values, right? You can inspect if these things are working correctly, these variables, and then also you can evaluate, right? You can see current index, you can see what the value of the current index is, and you can even do some cool Boolean things in here, right? So just read the book on this, right? I don't think I prepared this slide pretty well. I think the book does a good job with that, right? Debugging evaluate expression allows you to evaluate and inspect specific expressions or variables, so it can be an expression as well. While debugging, pause at a breakpoint, click the evaluate expression button or the small calculator icon, enter the expression or a variable name to evaluate it, right? So you can actually put some conditions in here, I think. So check the book on that. I have not used this extensively, but yeah, the book does a pretty good job. So that's why I didn't want to go into too much detail. So let's go to live coding. Is there any questions before I move on? We'll finish project 1A. Excuse me, I'm drinking some water here. If there is no question, we're going to start project 1A. So this is where we were at. If you have not got to this point, so please watch the previous lecture. Please watch the previous lecture, but basically we built the activity main.xml. We built this activity main.xml from scratch. I showed you guys how to put the spacing. That was the new thing I taught. And then I also showed you guys how to put this horizontal layout and the vertical layouts and put the spacing, right? So this is what I showed you guys. And then I also created this list of answers. Brisbane is false and true and all these things, right? So I showed you guys how to work with this, right? And then I showed you this new concept of binding. We're not going to use the old way of doing things by saying r.layout dot true button or false button, right? We are simply using the binding for now on. And then I showed you guys that you can actually create a list of button by just saying binding dot answer one button, answer two button, answer three button, and so on, right? So that was lecture, the last lecture, right? So let's start writing a code. Let's start writing the code, right? So let me delete all this stuff. These were the comments that I gave in the last lecture. So let's start writing the code here, right? And this is too much stuff in here. So let me just press enter here. So let's start writing the code, right? First of all, we want like so this is what the code looks like so far. Let me run the okay, let's just run this real quick. It's taking some time. So the first thing we're going to do is what happens when we click on those answer buttons, right? So if we click on that answer button, it is supposed to give that red color, right? And if we deselect it, then it is supposed to go back to that teal bluish color, right? So this is what it looks like. This is supposed to look like, I think, that more bluish rather than purple. So we're gonna change that, right? So we're gonna actually what happened right now it's doing nothing when I click on this, right? So we're gonna make sure first of all that this actually works, right? So let's start working on that, right? So first of all, we're gonna do answer list.zip, and then we're gonna say button list that we just created. So this just zipped. So we have 4 answers and we have 4 buttons, right? This answer 0 button, 1 button, answer 2 button, answer 3 button. We zip all of this, right? So this becomes like a tuple, right? So that's basically what it's doing. Now we'll do like a for each. We don't want to create like um, answer one binding dot answer one button dot set on click listener, and we write another function for binding dot answer button two dot onset. That is tedious, right? That's not a good coding practice. So basically we're gonna use this for each function to deal with all of this at once, right? So we're gonna say like clicked answer, write this properly, clicked answer, and then we're gonna say button. So this should give you these two things, and we're just gonna put this arrow, right? So basically we have two things. We have the answer list, which is gonna be clicked answer, and this is gonna go one at a time, right? It's gonna give you one answer and one button at a time when you're doing the for each statement, right? So then we're gonna say button now we don't need to write for each of these, right? Set on click listener for each of these individually. We can just in this for each we can simply write it all at once. We can say set on click listener, and then we can say the first thing we're going to do is the clicked answer, right? Whatever has been clicked. And remember, we are only going to change the model. We're not going to change the view. We are not going to change the front end here. We're going to change that front end in something called the update view function. So we're going to change that in private fun update view. So we are only going to change the backend. I mean, not the backend, just the model. In the future lessons, it's going to be a backend. We will have a database. So we will do that, right? So now what we're going to do is clicked answer dot is selected. Is it selected? Yes, it's selected if it hasn't been selected. But if it has been selected, we need to deselect it, right? So it's going to be opposite of what its previous state was, right? So we're just going to do is selected. And then if it's clicked, then it's going to go back to its previous, it's going to go back to its previous state, right? So that's all it's doing. And now what we need to do, so we need to make sure that if we have clicked this and we go to click that, and every other thing needs to be deselected, right? So how do we do that, right? So we have this answer list, right? We're going to do answer list dot filter from filter. So from the filter, we're going to select all the answers except the one that has been clicked, right? So how do I filter that? I showed you guys how the filter works, right? So this it is not equals to the clicked answer. So this has to be not equal to the clicked answer, right? So basically, if we click Brisbane, then this will give me, the filter will give me Canberra, Melbourne, and Sydney. So this will basically give me these three answers, basically, right? So it's going to give me those three answers. It's going to filter those three answers. Now we need to do dot for each. We're going to loop through that, and then we're just going to say it dot is selected, we're going to say is equals to false, because we need to, if it was selected and we went to another button, then we're going to turn it to false, right? And then after this has been selected, we're going to call the update view. This is how we are separating the model view and the controller, right? So after this button has been clicked, any of the button has been clicked, we have to update the view after this model has been changed here, right? But also we need to update the view even before any of the button is clicked, because this has to be a certain color, right? It has to be a blue color, not this purple color, right? So how do we do? We'll call the update view function. So what do we do in this update view function, right? So let's write a simple update view here. Answer list dot zip. We're gonna say the same button list. This is a global scope, so I can access it from here. And then we say for each, we're just gonna have say answer and button, and then we give an arrow saying like this is how I want it to be named, the answer and the button. So now we're just going to say button dot is enabled is equals to answer. So now what we're doing here is basically this was the model, but in the view we're going to change the button now. You see the front end is going to be changed, because is it true that the button is the front end? Yes, the button is the front end, right? So we are going to change. So if it's going to be enabled, if the answer is enabled, and is it going to be button is going to be selected, is selected, if it is answer is selected, right? So we do have those two options here, is selected and is selected and is enabled. And is enabled will come handy when we have this 50/50 button. In the next project, project 1B, I think there was one student who already submitted project 1B as well. So people are moving along. But anyways, in the project 1B, we're going to use the hint button here, right? So is selected, right? We're going to say is selected. And then we have this utility function here, update color. So we write this function button dot update. In Kotlin, what it does is if we have the function like this button dot update, so it's going to directly take the button and then it's going to apply everything to this button here. So it's going to apply it to this button variable, right? So we're going to learn more of this, right? In the future, we'll actually write something like a util variable, util function ourselves. Don't worry too much about this right now. We will actually going to write our own utility function in the future, and it's something new that you might not have done in like Java or something like that, right? So we're going to say button dot update color. So it's going to update color based on if it's enabled, it's going to give a certain color. If it's selected, it's going to give a certain color, and it's going to take care of all this itself, right? So we're just going to update the color. So let's try this, right? Let's see what this does. Let's restart the program again, and see if these buttons will actually work. Answer buttons will actually work, right? So now you see that if I click on this, first of all, you see that this color has been changed, right? This color has been changed, and you can see that if I click on this has been changed from purple to blue because we immediately called the update view even before we clicked on any of the buttons here, right? We did. So this changed to this blue color. And then once we click on this, and then it gave me this red color, right? Once I click on that, it goes back to the blue color. And then if I click here, and then I click here, it changed. It made this deselected, and also it made this one selected, right? So this is how it's working so far. It's working pretty good so far. Any questions on this? We are done with the main. We are done with the clicking on the answer buttons, right? So let's move on, right? Let's move on. Let's create the lifeline button, right? So the lifeline button is basically the 50-50 button, right? That's the lifeline button. Let me go to activity main. What is that called? Did I call it the lifeline button? I call it the 50-50 button, right? So let's work on the 50-50 button now. So we're gonna say what's gonna happen. Actually, let me write the code here. What's gonna happen if someone clicks on that lifeline button, not lifeline, 50-50 button, and then has the set on click listener. And then what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do if someone clicks on this button, right? First of all, we're gonna select two answers from the answer list that are not correct. So we're gonna say filter, and then we're gonna say it is correct, but it's not correct because I gave this sign, right? This not sign. So that's basically, if you go to the answer, this is correct, it's going to be true if the answer is correct, but it's going to give you the false answer, right? So out of this, the three answers are false, right? We have this, and this. These three answers are false, but we're going to take only two. So we're going to say take two out of that. We don't need three, right? We're just going to need two of those. And then we're going to say for each it dot in is enabled is going to be false. We're going to disable those buttons. That means it's no longer going to be able to be selected. And then we're going to say is selected equals to false. And then similar to what we did last time, we're just going to, inside this brace, we're going to update the view, right? Because after these models has been changed, the view also has to be updated here. The separation is done here. It has to be changed here, right? So after the 50-50 button has been called, this 50-50 button also needs to be deselected. So how do I do that? Binding.50-50 button is enabled. So we're going to disable this if it's answer list dot all. So all of the answer list has to be enabled. If not, then this will be false, and then this will be disabled. So that's all we're doing here, right? So I think we're done with the 50-50 button. That's it. So let's try this actually. Let's run this code again and see if the 50-50 button works. Yes, the 50-50 button works. This is disabled. And then we have these two buttons also deselected, right? And sorry, it's disabled, right? So this is disabled, and that's done. We have one more thing to do. I think this is the easiest, I think, of all. That's the reset button. So we're going to do binding dot reset button dot set on click listener answer list dot for each. And then when you click on the reset button, you're just going to change the model, right? Is selected is going to be false. No, it's not selected. It's going to go back to normal. It that is enabled is sorry, it is enabled is going to be true. It is enabled. We can click it, and then inside this we're going to do update view. After it's clicked, we're going to call this again. All right, so let's run this again. This is the end of project 1A. So this is 4% of your grade. We are done with it. I hope you guys learned something from this tutorial. We're going to move on to project 1B, give some hints, and I think I'll be done, and we don't have to have a lecture on Thursday. So let's do this, right? Brisbane, Canberra, can deselect it. Sydney, Sydney is out. We'll do the 50-50. It's working. Can still select this. We can't select this because it's deselected now. And then I can select this, and then I can reset it, goes back to normal. I can select any one of these again. The 50-50 should work again, reset it, right? So everything is working. This is the end of project. Yeah, project 1A is done. So any questions Let me stop share here real quick. Any questions? That's the end of project 1A. I'm going to start giving some hints. I'm going to even write some code for project 1B and give you guys some hints for project 1B. Any questions? Is it straightforward now? Does it make sense?
I do have a question, but it's not about the project.
Okay.
For the quiz due on Monday, or is that open note or
Yeah,
do we?
it is open note. Yeah, all the quizzes are open note. Even your exams are open note, open book.
Okay, cool.
It's just you'll only get one chance though, so be careful. Um, I'm confident that you guys will do well, but please be careful because you only get one shot. It is, I think it's 4% of your grade actually. The lowest score will be dropped. I think one of those will be dropped out of the four quizzes, but it's four. Actually, it's like if you only consider three quizzes, it's more than 4%. It's 16 divided by three, so it's yeah, it's more than yeah, it's more than four actually. It's more like 5.5%, 5.33%. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on. Do you guys have any questions? We'll give some hint on project 1B now. Let me just drink some water here real quick. All right, so let's get started on project 1B, right? So let's get started. I'll write some I'll write some code to get you guys started. Um, yeah, I'm not feeling the best today right now, so I'm a little bit. I'm saying I'm not very careful what I'm saying, but anyway, so let's get started, right? So let's get started with project. Let me share my desktop one. Can you guys see my Android Studio here? Give me a thumbs up. I see Jimmy and Nick say yes, so I think I'm gonna take that as a yes for everybody. And then let's start creating a quiz view model, right? So we are done with project 1A, so let me get rid of that. All right, so let's get started, right? First of all, for the quiz view model, what you're gonna be doing is, let me remove all this stuff. We don't need the activity. We're not gonna make a whole lot of changes. So in this, we're gonna do, first we're gonna create the quiz view model. So it's gonna be a Kotlin class. We're gonna call it quiz view model. Actually, before I even do that, let me show you guys something. Let me run this code here, right? Let me run this code and show you what's gonna happen here. When I rotate the screen here, that's what I told you guys I'm gonna show you, right? So I click on this, I click on that, I do a 50-50 or something like that. And then I rotate this. Actually, let me make this auto. First of all, I need to swipe this here and clear all this stuff. I don't need any of this stuff. I need to make it auto rotate. So I need to bring this out all the way down. Yeah, so the auto rotate is on actually. So I already turned it on. If you have not done so, just bring this down, and then it has to be in the on state so that when we rotate it, it's gonna work, right? So now let's rotate this, right? What just happened here? What just happened? All the variable that we have here, um, sorry, all the clicks and everything we've done here, all the work that we did, right? All the work that we did on the model answer list here disappeared, right? It got rid of everything here. And that's not good because if someone rotates the screen while they are doing this quiz application and then they rotate it, all their work is done. I mean, and then we do 50-50, it's working again. Now say we rotate this again. What just happened, right? So it just took away all the answers. So we don't want that, right? So that's why the quiz view model the view model comes in handy, is we need to be able to store all these model details in a way that's not going to be influenced by the rotation of the screen, and it is more resistant to this rotation changes, right? So we need to make sure that that's taken care of. So let's do that, right? Let's we created this quiz view model, and then how do we initialize this? We'll just say view model. Um, And then this is the Android lifecycle. Similarly, right? If you remember here, we did app compat activity. It is also a subclass of this view model. Quiz view model is a subclass, and it's just extending this basically. And then this call this Android like I think this is already in your Gradle file, so you should be able to call this quiz view model, right? So this view model, right? So this is working. And then if we don't do this, right, this is giving an error. That means we need to initialize it. And it can be initialized without any variables, right? So basically we are just initializing this, right? So that's all we're doing here. And now what we are going to do is take all the answer stuff here from here, and then we're going to put this in the view model. And we're going to take the private variable away. And you might say, Professor, this is just a private, not the. So you might say, Professor, this is a really bad practice. Like anyone can change this val that you have given here, and this is not very secure what you're doing here. In the later lectures, I'll show you there's a special way. There's a special way you can actually solve this problem, that someone can only read from here and not write on the data, so they can only read. I'll show you in the future lectures how to do that, but just despite this not being the best practice, we're gonna just trust the process right now. Just have a blind faith in me right now, and then I'm gonna show you guys later, reward you guys for your faith. I don't mean to sound like a cultish teacher here, but just have faith on me for now. I'm not in a very religious way, but anyways, so quiz VM, and then we say quiz view model, and then we say by view models. I told you guys in the lectures that we're going to do a lazy initialization. So basically this will only, and then we need to get the import this view model. So we're doing a lazy initialization. That means it will only be called once it will only be initialized once it's used, right? So that's called the lazy initialization in Kotlin. So that's what we're going to do. We have the button list and everything is good, right? So we have the quiz view model. Now instead of saying the answer list, we're going to simply get the answer list from here, right? So we're going to get the answer list from quiz vm dot answer list, right? So this should get rid of all these issues. Same with this, we're going to say quiz vm dot answer list, and then also here quiz vm dot answer list. We fix all these things, right? So let's see, quiz vm dot answer list, and there's one more here. There's update view quiz vm dot answer list. So basically we fixed all the, actually there's one more here, quiz vm dot answer list. So basically we made a quiz view model, and then we did this. So now let's check, right? Let's check if this actually works. We want to check if this actually works. What happens if I rotate the screen now? And you see the benefit of separating the model and the view, right? Only so what's going to happen is once you rotate the screen, it's going to come back to this on create, right? The quiz view model is changed. All these things are changed. Now it goes over here and looks for these, like the answers, right? And then what is enabled, what is it selected? These things are changed, and then this is retained in the quiz view model, right? But once it enters here, it only changes the model. And once the model is changed and you do the update view, basically then you can, it doesn't matter even if you rotate the screen, right? Because this is still going to run. The on create is going to run after you rotate the screen, right? So let's check this, right? How this works now. Oops, sorry, I should do something first before 50-50 and do this. And now let me rotate this. You see, it retained this, right? So everything we call from quiz view model, this answer list, and its properties, everything is retained, right? Even we rotate the screen. Let's rotate it again, right? Let me do this and then rotate it again. And it's working, right? So everything is working, everything looks perfect. So the quiz view is working now, right? So it's working. So that's that, right? So now you want to add some things, right? In this project, actually, let me show you not the code. I've already solved this project myself. So let me just show you how this project 1B is supposed to run, right? So how is the project 1? So this is project 1B, and see how this is going to run, right? So let me run this. It's going to run here. So now you cannot submit anything in the beginning because you have not selected anything. But once you select something, then the submit button will appear and disappear based on how many are, I mean, if something is selected. The hint, as opposed to the 50-50 button, it only takes one of these. So it took Brisbane away, it took Melbourne, takes Brisbane, and then the hint button is gone as well, right? So now I can select Canberra, and then I can submit, right? I can say submit. And then it goes to the next question. And then so on, right? So it will have like 4 or 5 questions. I think, if I'm correct, it's 5 questions in project 1C, and you have to set the questions exactly as the way I do. Not the question doesn't have to be the same, but the answer has to be the same basically. So what do I mean by that? Actually, I'll show you guys what I mean by that. Let me rerun this code again. That's for project 1C. So because we're going to be running a test script to grade your project, right? So we click on Brisbane, Canberra, we submit it, we go to, we just select this, we can select the hints, and then we will just do these questions, right? So this is how it's supposed to look like, right? So this is how your project 1B is going to look like. So let's start coding a little bit. I'll give you guys more hints how to work on this, and then I will let you guys work on it yourselves, right? So that's how it works. And then in the quiz view model, you are going to change some things, right? In the quiz view model, first of all, you want to go to Canvas and download a class called question, right? So you need to go to the Canvas page, go to project 1B, and then you need to download this question .kt, right? So you want to download this Kotlin file, download this, download this. So I just downloaded that file, and I want to put that file. So I want to put this file inside the Kotlin. So I want to put this inside here, right? I want to put it inside the multi-quiz, and I'd say okay, and that's it, right? So I want to put, so now we have the question, right? Because we do have multiple questions now. In this first project 1A, we only had one question, but now we do have multiple questions, and you put the question, you download it basically, right? So now after you download it, all right, just give me a second here real quick. All right, so in the quiz view model, you're going to have a bunch of questions, and also you'll have, so instead of the answer list, you'll have a question list here now in the quiz view model, private val question list, and then you'll have a list of questions. Actually, instead of answers, you can say question, and then question will need a few things. So if you go to this question, you'll first of all need a question, a string from this string resource file. So we only have question Australia right now. So you'll need something like the r.string.question Australia, and then you'll have a list of answers, right? So you'll have a list of answer r.string.answer1 is correct equals to, this is going to be false, right? Sorry, we don't need the is correct. You just say false. So actually, let me copy and paste this from the code that I've already written so that I don't take a lot of your guys' time. I would like to finish this on time. Actually, let me go to the string resources first and then select the same. I'll go to string XML. And then instead of having this, we'll just say, I'll just copy and paste all these questions here. So I put like the same questions that I showed you guys. So you need to put question 1, answer 0, question 1, answer 1. You just need to copy and paste these questions here in the string XML. And let me copy and paste. And then we'll also remove this 50/50 and the reset button and change it with, actually, let me do that, right? Let me go to the layout and change a bunch of stuff here. So let me go to the layout and actually look at the Canvas page. It does give you how to name the IDs. It has to be this exact same thing. It has to be answer 0 button and so on. It's not going to affect you in project 1A, but in project 1B, this is gonna definitely affect you while we're running the grading scripts, right? So please be careful. Please be mindful of that. So let me change this button names as well, right? So it's just, actually, this is supposed to be answer 0 button, not answer 1 button, right? So I made a mistake here. It should be answer 0 button. I'll refactor that, answer 1 button, according to the Canvas requirement. And then I'll make this answer 3 button, refactor that. And then let's see, what else do we need? So we have this answer button. We'll have this as a hint button, right? So we need to change that 50/50 button to, so what does the Canvas say? Hint button, right? So we need to say hint button. This will give a bunch of error in the main activity. We'll fix that a little bit. I'll refactor that. And then we'll also say in this, we'll add a new string resource value. We'll say this is as hint. We will say hint button name or something. I'll just say hint. And then I will do OK. So that changes that to hint. The reset button is going to be the submit button now. So we're going to say submit button. And then we'll refactor this. And then we'll just say the same thing here. Add a new string value. The submit button value. And then we'll just say this as submit. Okay, so we have the submit and we have the hint, and we named it correctly according to the project specification. So everything should be good. Everything is good in the activity main XML. We put the values here. Now let's go to quiz view model and keep on adding. Let's go to the quiz view model. So basically in the quiz view model, we have this answer for 1, right? So basically what we're going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste this. And then basically that's question 1. And then we need a list of this, right? We don't just need one question. We need, I think, according to the test script in project 1C, you need 5 questions. And one thing I would want you guys to be super careful with, and please, if someone is watching online as well, Make sure for the first question, this is true. For the first question, this is true. For the second question, this is true. Everything is false. For the third question, this is false. It has to be set up in a certain way. Actually, I'm going to show you while we're doing the project 1C that it has to be set up in a very specific way for the test to run, right? So please be mindful of that right now, so that if you guys run into a lot of issues, guys might be wondering why am I getting all these issues in the test script, right? So this has to be set up in a certain way, which I'm going to show you guys later. So basically, I copied and pasted that. We also need a private variable called current index. So current index is basically going to show it starts at 0. That means we are at question 0. And then if it goes to 1, then we're going to go to question 1 and so on, right? So question 1, question 2. So it's going to go up to this question, right? So we're going to set up that, right? We don't need the answer list anymore for the project 1B. We don't need that anymore. All the answers are already here. We don't need that anymore, right? So we don't need that. What you need here now is, first of all, we're gonna call something in Kotlin called computed properties, right? So these are our computed properties. So what are computed properties? So let me first do that, right? So we're gonna do val question text. We're gonna get the question text, and then we're just gonna say get. So in Kotlin, this basically acts as a getter, right? So this is basically like a getter. This looks like a property, but are accessible without calling a getter, right? So we don't have to call a getter. This is basically like a getter. So we'll just say get question list current index. So this will basically give you the question at that current index, right? So if the first question is, what is the capital of Australia? This question text is basically going to give you what is the capital of Australia? And then if you move to the next question, then this is going to give you this second question, right? What is the capital of Nepal or something like that, right? That is basically what it's doing. We need the same thing for the answer list as well, right? So we're going to say val answer list. We're going to need the computed property as well for this answer list. And then we're going to say get. We're going to do the computed property again. And then we're going to do question list current index. So we need the answer of this question, right? So it has to be of this question. So what is the answer list of this question? So if this current index is, say, this question, what is the capital of India? Then this is the list that we need, list of these answers, right? So and now that's going to return the answer list, right? So this is definitely a better practice. We did put the private val here, but now we can simply use this. And there's a better way actually than even doing this, which I'll show you in the future lectures. And I keep on saying that, right? I keep on saying, okay, there's a better way, there's a better way. In this class, that's what you guys are going to learn, is like better way to do things, and you'll see more and more techniques how to do certain things, right? So that's how it's going to look like. That's how it's going to look like. Let's see. Let's see what I can do more today. Okay, so let me just give you some hint, right? So this basically made a quiz view model with all the question list. It's going to give you the current index. It's going to give you the question text. You should also work on a function like this, right? You should work on a function that does, I will let you guys actually do this. Next question is, say, for example, someone clicks on the submit button, then this function should basically do something that will change this current index, right? You cannot simply do current index plus 1, because obviously it's going to give like pointer out of bound pointers, right? Because this can't go like 1 plus, we don't have more than 5 questions here, right? So it should go back to question 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, question 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I will let you guys do this, right? I will say you guys do this. So you guys are going to do something like this, right? So that's another thing. So let's go to the main activity, right? So we're gonna go to the main activity here and start writing. So there's a bunch of errors now. I'm gonna get a lot of errors. We have the button list again. So we need to change the button list slightly here because we don't have answer 4, right? It started from 0. So we're gonna do answer 0 button, answer 1 button, answer 2 button, and this is coming from the ID from the activity XML, right? From that file. Answer 3 button. So we have the answer 3. So let's change that first of all. And then now we have this answer list, quiz VM answer list. Why is this still working? Answer, do we have an answer list? Oh yeah, we did create an answer list, right? That's great. So we created this answer list. Now, what you guys are gonna do is you're gonna remove this answer list from here. And actually, let's remove we will say the hint button here, and then we'll see the submit button here. And we will say the hint button here. So first of all, you need to write a code here. What happens when you do a hint button and what happens when you create a submit button, right? So what you are going to do here is if someone clicks on the hint button, you're going to do something like this. Let me just give you some hint here, right? So let me give you guys some hint. Let me give you a hint for the hint button, right? So that's nice. Quiz VM dot answer list. So basically from this answer list, actually, let me write a comment here. From the answer list, filter those that are not correct and are not disabled. So basically, you wanna you wanna filter those that are not correct. So these are incorrect answers, right? And then that are not disabled. That means if you click on one hint and it has already been disabled, then you don't want to disable that again, right? So it has to have two conditions. From that, take one answer from that answer list, right? How do you do that? There's a function called random. You can use this function called .random, and it will give you that one answer that has that from this filtered answer list, right? So that's going to give you that, and then for those for that you can use something called this let variable, right? So since we only get one, since we actually, you know what, since this is something new, let me just write the code for this. I'm not going to write the code for the other one. Let me just show you guys. Quiz VM dot answer list dot filter. If it is not correct, if it's a wrong answer and it has not been selected before, it dot is enabled, it's still enabled, then we're going to select dot random. We're just going to get one of those, and then since it's only one, now we can't do for each, right? We can no longer do for each because it's just one value. It's going to give an error if you do for each. It's just one value, it's just one random value, right? So we'll do something called let. So let is just going to work on that one value, right? So we're going to simply do it dot is enabled equals to false, and then it dot is selected is equals to false, right? It's no longer yeah, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to call the update view. So that's it. That's that for, and then the same thing for submit button. It should be pretty straightforward. Once you do the submit button, you are simply going to do quiz VM dot next question, which I have not implemented yet. You guys are going to do that yourself. You guys are going to go to the next question, and then you're going to implement that. But there's this one issue. One thing I'll give you a hint here is many students, I believe, will run into this issue in this project. The one major issue that they will run into is they will put this code, this answer list will be zipped here in this onCreate function. But actually, you want to zip this in the update view function. And why do I say that? Because this answer list, this previous answer list will be tied to those answer buttons. But we don't want that. Every time you press on next, submit, this new answer list should be zipped with this new, with the button list. So the new answer list has to be zipped with the new. So this shouldn't be here, right? So let me just delete this and say that zipping shouldn't be here, but should be in the update view. So that's another hint for you guys. And the last thing is here, this hint button is not done correctly. Obviously, you need to write a code for both hint button. This is not the right way. That's for the previous one. And you need to write code for the binding dot submit button. So you need to write code for both of those. So after you do that, then you are done with this project as well. So project 1B is done. After you're done with this, we'll be done with that. Just make sure that you follow the correct pattern of question and answer in project 1C. This is not going to matter too much in this 1B, but that's going to matter there. But that's all the hint I'll give you. This is more than enough. I think this makes things way, way, way easier for everybody. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to ask you if you guys have any questions. Do you guys have any questions? We're on time, and where can we copy the strings and question text? You just make your own questions for now. Just make your own questions. Just type it out yourself, like I did. I didn't type it, but basically just watch this tutorial and then make your own questions. And I didn't put that on the canvas, but just do it yourself. But for project 1C, I'll show you in the video how do you make the question a certain way. Does that make sense? Just make it yourself. Just more practice for you guys using string.xml and also working with making those lists, right? So just more practice for you guys. Do you guys have any questions? Does that make sense? Well, I don't think we need to do lecture this Thursday. I basically taught the whole module for module 3, and then I taught you guys about I gave you all the solution for project 1A and gave you a lot of hints, right? Gave you like a more than 50% hint for the project 1B as well. And I think you guys should be able to finish project 1B as well now. Any questions? If no questions, then I'm gonna stop here. That's about it. You guys should be able to do it. And yeah, I'll just stay here for a minute or two, but no questions, then I'm gonna stop recording now. And yeah, I'm gonna stop recording now.